Hello guys, welcome back. It has been a while since we've done this podcast. We basically stopped it through prep. Prep got difficult. We both had a short prep and we had to make certain sacrifices in certain areas, and the podcast was unfortunately one of them. However, prep is over now and we're both recovered.
Both full of food, full of energy, and ready to go again.
Ready to get after it. However, we do feel like, or we potentially have had our podcast deleted. So this might be the first episode of a brand new podcast, or I'm trying to recover the old one. So hopefully we can recover the old one. And then this will be like episode, I don't even know what we got up to. Around 10, I don't know, something like that.
It's kind of a next chapter though, because obviously the show season is finished. So we kind of want to use this time where even some people might actually be thinking about starting a pre-prep before their prep if they're going early next year and things like that. But use this time to talk about other things. And then obviously as show season starts again, go back into the bodybuilding prep stuff.
Yeah, the podcast is called What Does It Take? And it doesn't have to necessarily mean just competitors. Like it can mean lifestyle clients too. What does it take to get to your goal?
Yeah.
And I feel like today's episode is going to be very relevant because it is going to be about how to stay on track towards your goals in the festive period. And obviously Christmas is coming up. We are going to do an episode about how our post-show went and how you can potentially approach post-show, because me and G have very different approaches. Obviously, like she's got her reasons, I've got my reasons, and it's absolutely fine. There's more than one ways to approach post-show, so we're going to do, so we are going to do that in an episode in itself. But by the time, if we did that first, this episode wouldn't be relevant anymore. So yes, this is going to be about how to still hit your goals basically and hit your targets and basically try and achieve what you want to do over the festive period. So this again, it is relevant because we do have a couple of clients that are in prep for early shows next year, but also this is mainly for lifestyle clients because we've got a vast range of people that have many different goals, and I think that's the first step in this topic, is to assess which stage you are actually at. Are you in a building phase? Are you in a maintenance phase, a health phase, or are you in like a cutting phase? Are you trying to lose fat at the moment? So that is the first step towards this subject matter, I think, is assessing where you are, because once you've done that, you can then dictate which direction you're going to go in.
Yeah. So that's the thing, like with so for me with my girls, we set out, I mean Matt does it with his guys as well, we set out a vision plan, but as an example would be we have quite a few photo shoots planned next year. We've got them planned in May, July, two in July, possibly one in November. So depending, you know, with my lifestyle girls, if whatever their goal is, depending on when that say final goal of the photo shoot might be the fact that some girls are currently in a building phase, they might be in a maintenance, they might be planning on pulling back a little bit now, and this is the thing that we can then manipulate if we've got a clear vision plan. So then we can break it all down, what stages you're going to be in when, so you can still enjoy Christmas, you can still enjoy birthdays, and how to not only navigate like Christmas, which is relevant right now, but social events as a whole, and still stay on track towards your goals. So it might be the fact that, you know, you want to be in the best shape ever for summer, and then by summer comes, you just hit the fuck it button because it's summer and you're out at all the festivals and things like that, when actually you can surprisingly have the best of both.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key is, which unfortunately isn't going to actually help people this year if you haven't already done this, is planning ahead. It's literally planning ahead. So every single client that we have, like G says, we have a vision plan, and let's approach each phase and how we could potentially approach it. But so let's say, for example, you're in a cutting phase. Okay, this is the hardest time to still head towards your targets and head towards your goals over a Christmas period. For those that haven't planned ahead, for those that have planned ahead, you can still absolutely head towards where you want to go, because we basically structure in for almost every single, I think actually every single client that we've got is pretty much going to be bumped up to a maintenance period over the festive time, over the Christmas period, unless you have anyone that's still in a deficit. I don't think I have.
No one tracks on Christmas.
I'm talking about Christmas week at the moment. Christmas Day, we'll get to that in a second.
I have a couple which will be mainly because, again, I find out a lot about what their plans are at Christmas, because everyone tackles Christmas differently. It might be the fact they go, do you know what, I'm actually not doing anything apart from Christmas Day, I want to enjoy some food. So if they're on a deficit and they're not actually doing anything around Christmas, that's still 6 days out of the 7 days they can still be on track and track things. If it's the fact you're like, oh, I've got to go to my mum this day, and then Boxing Day I've got to go to my dad, but then I've got my partner's family the 4 days later and things like that, then we go, okay, this is how we structure a maintenance. So finding out a lot about what you actually have revolved around Christmas is going to be a big factor in how you tackle Christmas.
That's a very good point, actually, because even if you're in a deficit, you know, you're in a fat loss phase, a lot of people do see Christmas straight away and think, oh, you know, hit the fuck it button, especially if they're not coached, and they kind of write off the whole month. Basically, that's why a lot of people start their journeys in January, because they see December as a whole write-off. But like G highlighted, if you actually analyze how many days that you are potentially going to be off plan for, let's just say the average person, I would say maybe 2 to 3 days. You got like a work Christmas party, you got Christmas Day, and then let's say, for example, you got your partner's Christmas Day as well with their family. So that's 3 days out of the whole month, out of what is it, 31 days in December. So that's still 28 days you can be on track and heading towards your goals. So that is the first step. And if you only do have 3 days and you're happy and you're in a good position, you can keep pushing for the whole month and still get great results over the course of the month. But let's just say, for example, you've got more than 3 days, okay? And you do like to approach Christmas week a little bit more relaxed. Obviously, you've got New Year's Eve, you've got a lot of other things going on. So this is when we try and plan ahead and incorporate those maintenance weeks that I mentioned before. So even if you are in a deficit for the course of, for an extended period, for example, it's a really good idea to plan ahead and have these maintenance weeks in there anyway, for many different reasons. The main reason being is to help offset any sort of accumulative, I don't like using the word fatigue, because fatigue is like a broad word now that people use for a lot of scenarios, but dieting does accumulate certain factors, such as it affects your sleep, it affects your recovery, just how you feel in general. And having these maintenance weeks can really help offset that. And I use them all the time in my prep. Like G knows that I'll get to a certain point in prep and my sleep just goes absolutely downhill. Like I really struggle with that the most. And, you know, some days I'll only get like 2 to 3 hours sleep. However, if I have even just a few days at this maintenance period, it completely gets rid of that for a good few weeks again, and I can go back in it and carry on. So structuring that in over Christmas week is really going to help. So how would you approach a maintenance week? So as I said before, you need to plan ahead for this, because obviously you want to, you know, go for a dieting phase for a while first before implementing this maintenance week. So you don't want to be dieting for like a week and then be like, right, I'm going to bump my calories up again, because there's no point in that. So obviously you want to get a good chunk of fat loss done first, then you can bump your calories up. Now, everyone's maintenance is going to be at a different place. That's going to be down to where you are with your metabolism. That's going to come down to how long you've been dieting for, because, you know, metabolic adaptation does occur and everyone's thyroid function down regulates during that time, and lots of other things. So I can't give you an exact calorie number, and no one ever can, because it's very much person dependent. However, you should be able to tell roughly due to how much weight you've been losing in a deficit, and you can kind of tell from there. But don't be shy about bumping up the calories, or dropping off cardio and expenditure, or combining the two. So a little bit down with the calories, a little bit down with the expenditure. And that's the way we like to approach maintenance weeks.
I'll always say as well to my lifestyle girls, especially, I get a lot of girls that are very stigma around the scales, and predominantly, as you know, deficit or building or whatever, you're going to have a good protein goal. So excuse me. So when we go into maintenance, predominantly as well, most of your calories are going to come from carbohydrates, because again, we're going to make sure your fats are in there. So we bump up mostly carbs. So many things can happen when you go into a maintenance. Your body might be completely in need of all the food, depending how hard you've been dieting, and you might find you actually might make a loss on the scales as such, because your body is in need of this extra bit of food because you've been pushing so hard. Again, down to metabolism, and so many other variables. It might be the fact you maintain, which is obviously, you know, the idea. It might be the fact the scales go up. And this is when I get sometimes girls that might panic and they go, oh my God, and please remove all my food again because I've undone all my hard work. But we need to remember, going in without draining on about it, But for every 1 gram of carb we eat, our body stores 3 grams of water. If we're predominantly giving you more food throughout carbohydrates, you're going to store more water. So for me, for example, like maintenance weeks and days for me in my prep wasn't something we could really do as such, because I turn into like a water balloon. So obviously everyone genetically is different, everyone is in different stages, but I'll always say to my girls, you know, I'll always tell them these are the things that might impact, because it gives us more data to, because you know, coaches aren't mind readers, but the more we can work out going through deficits, going through building phases, maintenance, who responds really well to carbs, who might need it, as long as you understand the reasons, the way your body's responded to things is going to be the main thing. The more you know, the more confident you're going to be doing it. And I've had girls that, you know, have stayed the same, have lost, and sometimes they've gone up. And then, you know, they've panicked and we've gone, no, we stay consistent. And next week they've then made a dramatic loss because their bodies, you know, worked through the carbohydrates. They're feeling really good on the carbohydrates. And, you know, in turn, they've had more energy on the carbohydrates. They've pushed their cardio maybe that little bit harder. They've lifted heavier because obviously we've got more energy in us. But it's knowing that biggest thing, if you go on a maintenance and the scale suddenly jumps up, think about how long and tedious it is to lose fat. Like, we don't just eat a salad and just lose fat. So just eating a little bit more food over a few days or a week, whatever, you won't just suddenly gain fat. This is what we need to remember. It works the same either way. So it's about consistently being in a surplus, which gains fat. So we need to just kind of, I think we get so caught up with the emotional and not the logical when it comes to the scales. So again, bearing in mind all the benefits with a maintenance week, not only mentally with you like feeling better, physically having more energy, and just seeing everything as a whole. And that's why, again, having a coach is really useful to bring that in touch with you and just remind you of everything going on, just in case, you know, it does happen. It doesn't mean you've suddenly undone all your work.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't see the scale and be emotionally attached to it. You have to have an emotional detachment and just see it as data only, because otherwise a maintenance week isn't going to work. If you see that number scale up, like G said, you're going to panic. You're going to try and drop your scale, your calories back down. It could shoot stress levels up, which is going to raise your cortisol levels, and that's going to make things a lot worse as well because you're going to retain more water. It can have a cascade effect. So yeah, it is really handy to have a coach because they take the thinking out of it for you. All you need to do is send them the data and they work everything out for you, basically. And that is a big benefit. But like I said to you before, a lot of people see as maintenance week, first time they ever hear about it or ever try it, they see that as a step backwards from achieving their goal. But remember, this podcast is about how you can still reach your goal or make positive steps towards your goal. And a maintenance week is a positive step towards your goal. So long as, you know, you can get straight back into that deficit afterwards, then it's absolutely amazing because, as I said before, it can really refresh your whole system, your mindset, your physique, how you physically feel, and lots of different variables to then go straight back into that deficit afterwards and hit it even harder. So it is actually a really big positive to do within a dieting phase, whether there's Christmas time or not at certain points. And yeah, this could be a great time to implement it. So that's generally what we try and do for most clients that are in a dieting phase. Now, when it comes to prep, luckily, we don't have we don't have anyone that's deep in prep because the show season doesn't really officially kick off until March. We don't have any competitors competing until April. So the ones that have started prep already, they're in the early days of prep. We've chipped off a fair bit of fat off them already. And then we can incorporate this maintenance week. So that is not a problem at all. So yeah, so that's the dieting phase basically covered. So planning ahead, implementing a maintenance week if you can. If your body doesn't respond to a maintenance week, you covered that as well, didn't you? So you know what to do there. So that's that. People that are in a health phase, it's really quite simple. This is only going to probably apply to a small number of our listeners, and that's for someone like in my situation right now. Okay, so obviously I've come off the back of prep. I'm down to TRT on my androgens. I am in a health phase at the moment, so my main concern is obviously getting my blood work back into green. Now, for people in that scenario, you can't hit the fuck it button. Me, for an example, if I did hit the fuck it button, my body weight would go up, but also my blood pressure would go up, and it would basically put my metrics back a level, and it wouldn't be positive for what I'm trying to do in this phase, which is getting myself in a healthiest body fat percentage, not healthy body fat percentage, healthy place blood work wise, because the sooner I can do that, the sooner I can bump the androgens back up again and get back into a pushing phase. So eating in a healthy manner really does, it's the be all and end all when it comes to that, taking your supplements, still doing your cardio, still training hard, eating the right food. So staying on plan. And generally when you're in a health phase, you're never going to be in a deficit anyway, because you're coming off the back of a prep, or you're coming off the back of a push phase in a building phase. So all you want to do is bump your calories down to maintenance, or if you're off the back of a prep, you still might potentially be in a surplus. Like I said to you before, you've got to watch your metrics. So track your blood pressure. I would say do that minimum of sort of 3 times a week. And you want to keep that like where it needs to be, basically. And diet is the main one for that. So that's the health phase covered. I think we don't really need to go into too much more detail on that.
Curveball is one I want to talk about. Is, again, this is something where I've had a few of, is girls that have been dieting for their Christmas parties and want to feel good for Christmas. So again, because we've planned ahead, we have planned a deficit up until, say, early December or whatever, and then we've thought about reversing. So rather than having a diet all the way up until Christmas and then a maintenance, again, depending on variables, is the fact we've got them feeling really, really good for Christmas. And then because we've done a reverse, so I know we've spoken about post-show before, about a slow reverse, or whether it's a good or bad thing, but in a lifestyle cut, a slow reverse is really not a bad thing. In post-show, there's a lot of talk about bringing your food up very quickly for health, which is fine. But in the sense of, if a girl, I've got girls that finish, say, 1,600 calories because of that, and then I don't want them riding that into Christmas. What we could do is we reverse out. So I've got girls that have been kind of, say, 1,600 calories, they finished, and what we've done is slowly pull back on cardio, bring up the calories as well, and then they're sitting at around now 2,000 calories in the same body composition, feeling really strong, feeling really energetic. It takes the pressure off at Christmas as well, because they are not going to have, we never want any guilt around food, so they feel so much better because they've got a lot more food to be able to think they can enjoy around the Christmas period. Obviously Christmas Day, just enjoy, and then the cardio as well, because obviously, again, depending if you've got loads of family to see and you think, oh my god, how am I going to get my training sessions in, this is obviously when you can implement another podcast itself, deloads, things like that. But being able to know where we can pull back to plan for something that's going to be very busy, and we never want a stress factor to be associated with things like that. So being able to reverse out, be in a really healthy body composition, a really happy body composition, it also then means that we set yourself up for a really positive start for the new year, where the motivation comes back and we want to suddenly go into a deficit again because we've spent a little bit of time. It might be the fact we've broken the stigma around more food, and they want to carry on this building phase as such and reversing these calories up. And I've got some girls that are on 3,000 calories and really enjoying the process right now because they love the strength, they love the routine, they love the fact they can do the social events, and it's very easy to fit food in within those amount of calories. So it doesn't always, obviously that was a deficit phase, but this is kind of a side on from what might be a deficit phase. Is, say you were just doing it for your Christmas party or something, or just to feel good for Christmas. As long as you've planned ahead and you've done that work, say for September, October, November, you've been in the deficit, then doesn't mean to say you have to then stay in it. Maintenance is a very underrated phase, and same as reversing things, because I think everyone always thinks we've got to be building or got to be cutting. Maintenance is a very good phase, because, and it's something I break down to the girls, because when it's lifestyle as well, I always put maintenance / build. We want to build muscle and we want to have a good amount of calories. It's not build as in we're going to get you suddenly fat and we're going to undo all your work. And it's not maintaining in the sense the stigma might be you just stay the same. It's the fact that we're constantly evolving, we're constantly ticking our boxes, but it's the mundane things that, because you think you need to be doing one extreme or the other, you don't think you're making progress, when actually maintenance is a really good phase to be in when you've got social occasions like this, because you've got the food, you've got the energy, and you're still going to be ticking your boxes, so you're still going to be making progress for it. So if we can reverse your calories up, get you in a really good spot, you enjoy Christmas, and then not only, like I said, physically, but mentally you're going to be in a good spot. So that is another side on from if you were in a deficit, and again you plan ahead, how you can then come into Christmas feeling even better.
Yeah, so if you plan ahead to finish your cutting phase just before Christmas, it's a good thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you now. Yeah, that makes sense as well, totally. So then the last phase will be the building phase, right?
Yeah.
And the building phase is the easiest one, really. But it doesn't mean you can slack off. Like, a lot of people do think, oh, I've got a lot of calories to play with here, I can just eat loads of chocolate or whatever. Like we'll get on to Christmas Day in a minute, but for like the week of Christmas, for example, we're talking about in a general sense at the moment, like you still don't want to take your foot off the gas. Obviously, like you can still eke out, like every single week to me is a week to make progress. And if I if I just fill my calories with only chocolate, I'm going to feel shit by the end of the week. My training performance will go down. I'll feel sluggish. My cardio will go down. And going back to the health phase thing that I spoke about earlier, my blood pressure would probably go up through the roof. So you still need to eat to your goals, right? So if you're macro tracking, if you're doing a meal plan, whatever that might be, yes, you've got a little bit more flexibility there, but you don't want to say basically hit the fuck it button and just fill it with absolute crap. All right. So it is all about planning ahead again. And that's it, really. I mean, when it comes to events and things, again, with events, like if you have a few more things planned other than those 3 things that the usual person might have, again, in a building phase, you've got a little bit more flexibility there. For example, if you've got a meal plan and it's, a dinner with 1,000 calories and X amount of protein to hit, you can look ahead at the menu, for example, and pick out a meal that's around that same number. Like, it's really quite easy to do now, especially as most menus have calories on the menu. It makes it very, very easy. And you can still do that in a building phase or in a deficit, but you've got a lot more flexibility to do that in a building phase. And it is the time to sort of make the most of that, because I don't think it's healthy all year round to just stick to the same food groups all the time. Like, you still need to be able to enjoy social occasions. If your friends want to go out, you can't all year round. You don't want to be that person, be like, no, I can't do it. I've got to eat my meal plan. Like, you need to be able to enjoy life. And the building phase is that time to have more flexibility, to enjoy more things in life. So I think this is a great time to definitely do that. Like I've got friends that I know of, I'm not going to mention their name, but they will not sort of go off plan at all. And we say to them all the time, you need to have that little bit of flexibility, but they won't do it. But you do really need to, because it's not healthy for you to just stick to the meal plan all year round and just say no to social occasions and things like that. All right. So that's basically in the building phase. You have got that flexibility to do that. So I briefly touched upon events. So say more events come up. Let's just say, as an example, this comes up quite a few times, Christmas markets. Your friends want to go to the Christmas markets. You don't want to say no. Let's just say, for example, they all decide to get some street food whilst they're out. You can absolutely do that, right? Mm-hmm. You can absolutely do that. And again, it depends on what sort of phase that you're in, but you have the option to do things like calorie cycling. If you're in a calorie deficit in a maintenance, again, you might have slightly less calories to play with, but it's still easily doable. And it's just about preparing and planning ahead. Or if it is a spontaneous thing that you do, then you can sort of do it afterwards. Like, calorie cycling isn't up until that point and then that's it, it's ruined. Like, you've still got the rest of the week to sort of make up for that. If you look at the amount of calories that you have, and a lot of people use this analogy, see calories as money. You make certain amount of investments into a bank. Oh wait, where was I going with this? You know this analogy,
don't you? Savings and spending.
Savings and spending, yeah. Wait,
so basically, if you've got a budget,
she's the one with the analogies. I can't do it.
If you've got a budget of money for the week, and you want to then think you want to spend for more occasions or something on the weekend or something, you're just going to save in the week or things like that. So, for example, if you have a bowl of oats for breakfast, a chicken and bacon wrap for lunch, and then you've got 500 calories for dinner, and you have like a pasta bake, and what you want to do is you're going to go out and have something that's like 800 calories as your off-plan meal. It's so simple in the sense you can just go, do you know what, I'm going to have a omelette, because eggs, protein, sorted, breakfast. I'm going to take out my wrap, but I'm going to have a chicken and bacon salad. Again, you've probably saved like 200-300 calories there. And like I said, it's mainly from things like, say, carbs. Obviously, it might be a little bit of fat. You've predominantly prioritized your protein. And then it's not the end of the world because you've swapped out your wrap and your oats for the next day. It might be like a crepe or something, because this is the time to have that balance at the end of the day. And it's not about what you do like perfectly. It's what you do consistently over a period of time, and that's the main thing. So you don't need to, you know, hit the nail on the head every single day if you're not in prep. Obviously if you're in prep, it does matter a little bit more. And that's the main thing. So even like, for an example, I had one client who had a Christmas meal, and she was like, I was going to eat my meal beforehand. It then meant, I think it was like a buffet. It meant she wouldn't be able to enjoy the buffet. Bearing in mind things like buffet isn't going to have a lot of protein. So what we did is we then thought about what meal she was going to have beforehand, made it into a high protein, low carbohydrate meal, and then obviously went through strategies to be able to enjoy the buffet. And she had the best background. She had protein, she had a meal before she went, she didn't starve herself, and she got to enjoy some stuff for her works meal. So, you know, it is about being able to know all your options. It isn't all or nothing, and being able to just be aware of all these things. And at the end of the day, if you overeat by a few hundred calories, you can undo it the next day, in the sense of like, just don't have your wrap the next day, or just go, you know, it's a one-off day. It's not going to be the end of the world. It's when it goes into the next day, into the next day, into the next day, and then you've had a fuck it button week, and then you probably just feel worse for it, like physically, in the sense your digestion, your energy, your sleep, because you went hard all week. But everything is temporary in that sense, but it's your mindset that gets you back on track and still ticking those boxes to feel good again.
Yeah. Did we explain the analogy? I don't know if we did we?
Yeah.
Did you explain that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Budget of money for the week.
Yeah, budget money for the week.
You've got however much you want to spend for the week.
Yeah.
And if you want to spend more on certain days, you save on certain days.
Save on certain days. Yeah. Okay, cool.
I just repeated myself.
Sorry, I didn't hear that before. This is probably why I'm shit at analogies, because I don't listen in the first place. But yeah, so that's a really good analogy to use if you can explain it.
Another good analogy to use, which I find very, very useful around Christmas time, because you get a lot of people that do say, oh, just fuck it, I'll just start again in the new year, is imagine that you are in a traffic jam that's moving really, really slow, and it's going really slow, and you say, sod it, I'm just going to pull over, I really can't be arsed with this. You pull over, half an hour goes past, an hour goes past, and you go, oh my God, I actually need to carry on getting to where I need to get to. You get back in the traffic jam, and you're actually no further ahead. Whereas if you stayed in the traffic jam, even if it was moving slowly, you still would have moved further. So in the sense of, you know, these next 2 weeks, with everything going on, if you can stay and tick your boxes 60% of the week, 50, 60, 70% of the week, you're still doing more than if you just went, fuck it, I'll start again in the new year. So, you know, it's not about, well, I can't be perfect. You know, even me and Matt, we normally train 5 times in a week. We might be doing on 1 week, because we've got Matt's family and my family, and there's a lot going on for about 5 days solid. We are probably going to pull back and train 3 or 4 days that week. You know, it's not going to be the end of the world. We've worked around it, and it's what you can do. Like I said, it's what you can do consistently over time, rather than perfectly over a short period of time. So if you can plan ahead, know what's going to take you off track and what isn't, and then work around that, that's going to be the best thing moving forward, because you're going to feel better for that, and you're not putting pressure on yourself to set yourself up to fail and then feel awful for it.
Absolutely. Within our culture, Christmas time is a very social occasion, isn't it? It's when you see your friends the most, it's when you see the family the most. And what do we do as a culture when we socialize? We usually eat and drink. And Christmas happens once a year, right? So you do need to be able to enjoy it. But at the same time, think about, like G just said, basically, don't let 3, 4, maybe even 5 occasions ruin your whole month and take you off track for the whole month. It's about just getting back on it and ticking your boxes. You were making great progress before this moment, so don't let that 4 or 5 occasions, whatever it might be, stop you making that progress. Okay, so just keep moving forward. Like most of our guys and girls, well, pretty much all of them, they still make fantastic progress in December. So make sure that you do as well. And yeah, you'll be absolutely fine. Last little point is about on those Christmas days. So when you're with your family, celebrating Christmas Day, Boxing Day, you know, if you've got partners, you've got to celebrate it with their family as well. Just enjoy it, guys. Like, honestly, just enjoy it. Don't calorie track, don't macro track, just enjoy that moment, because it's a special time of year. Like, you get it once a year, okay? And going back to my previous point, it's not healthy to always thinking about these things, because that's when like eating disorders and things like that can develop. You need to sometimes relax a little bit and just enjoy the moment. And that is the time to do that, okay? So like G said earlier, eating 1 day off plan is not going to make you fat. going back to what I was talking about, eating just one day at Christmas time is not going to make your blood pressure go so high you have a heart attack. Okay, so you just need to enjoy it for what it is. Okay, and then as soon as that festive time is done, you get back on plan and you'll be absolutely fine. Last little point is, again, do not get emotionally attached to the scale weight, because after you enjoy that Christmas time, Christmas Day, whatever it might be, whenever you celebrate with your family and friends, is don't weigh yourself the next day, because you know it's going to be up. You're going to be holding a lot of water. Your glycogen is going to be completely full. You might feel a little bit bloated. You might have some digestion issues if you don't eat these foods normally. Christmas dinner, for example, is full of veggies. There's going to be a lot of fiber and stuff in there. You might be feeling a bit bloated and gross. Don't weigh yourself the next day and make yourself feel shit. Just get straight back on plan, tick those boxes. You'll shift back through that water weight in no time at all and be back to making fantastic progress. So I think that's it. That's the key to keep making progress towards your goal.
Yeah, the biggest thing as well is, again, leading on from you saying about weighing yourself, do not ever feel you need to undo any of the food you have eaten because you have enjoyed being in the moment. You never need to undo anything. And this is something I always stress with the girls, whether they've overeaten, a day, a week, whatever. The biggest thing you actually need to do, because as we've established when I said about carbohydrates before, it's going to be mainly water weight. And the best thing you can do is just get right back on plan, track your protein, have routine, go out for a nice walk and get your hydration up. And within days, that will come right off. But this is then what happens is you go, oh my God, I feel like shit. I'm going to restrict. I'm literally going to live off salads and it's going to come off. But then in a few days, you're going to go from having so much food to then restricting. And then that's how the mental battles happen with food, because it's so up and down. So please never feel you have to undo, because I promise you the body is an amazing and very clever thing. And just getting back into routine, going out for a walk, I said hydration, all that, it will just come right off. You will not just suddenly get fat. And I've read something somewhere once which makes sense. It's not what you do in the 1 week between Christmas and New Year, it's what you do for the other 51 weeks of the year. That's what matters. And that's the biggest takeaway. Like, we get so stressed about this social thing for 1 week. It really doesn't matter. What matters is actually what you do the whole year before that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, even that month leading up to those few occasions. So yeah, don't be a new year, new me. Make a start on your goals Christmas week. Who cares? You've got a lot of people have time off work in Christmas week.
Start incorporating those habits.
Yeah, use that time wisely, get after your goals, and make some fantastic progress. So I think
set yourself goals ready for the new year.
Or do that.
Spend some time reflecting on 2022. Did you try and set goals January this year? And then did you feel you didn't achieve them? Were you close to achieving them? Anything at all? And then what do you feel got in your way, and how are you going to make the difference to make that actually happen next year?
Reflection, a time of reflection.
Yeah.
So I think that pretty much covers that, right? We covered all aspects there. We did that pretty well. In half an hour as well. Yeah. We didn't even waffle at all. We usually say to ourselves, I know, I'm waffling now. We usually say to ourselves, let's write it all out before, and then we can just stick to that structure, because we both go off in so many tangents. But we didn't today, so that's awesome.
And if you ever do need any help with anything, whether it's food related, or obviously if it's between now and Christmas and you just want that little bit of advice, then both of our DMs are always open.
Yeah, send us a message. Next week's episode, we're going to try and do these once a week. Now that prep's over, as I said before, once show season starts, we're going to get back to doing what we were doing before as well, which is basically interviewing the winners of the shows, finding out what it took for them to win the shows. But until show season kicks off, we're just going to do one a week on various subjects.
If there's anything you want us to cover,
yep, let us know. I'd put a poll up on Instagram. Where do people listen to podcasts? So wherever that vote finishes, I'll probably upload to that. It will definitely be Spotify, maybe YouTube, but we'll see. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for listening.
And we will see you in the next episode.